Am I the antagonist for announcing my pregnancy 2 weeks after sister-in-law did? My husband, 32, and I, 26, got pregnant last year in June, but it wasn't financially possible for us to raise a baby, so I decided to get an abortion. It was really sad for me, but I wanted to raise my baby in the best environment possible. After it was done, I got the implant and kept it for a year. This year, in July, my husband and I mutually decided to remove the implant as we are so much better financially right now, and our house is almost finished. It took 2 months for me to get pregnant, and we were so ecstatic when we found out, and my husband had to tell his mom, but my brother-in-law was there, too, when my husband called, so he knows, and by default, my sister-in-law, too. The thing is, my husband and I knew 4 weeks ago that my sister-in-law was pregnant because she kinda did it behind my brother-in-law's back. She went off the pill without telling him, and my brother-in-law was planning on moving back with his mom until they reconciled. Which they did. Well, because sister-in-law and brother-in-law knew, I decided to just tell everyone, 'cause it's better that they know I'm pregnant from us rather than from a third party, but sister-in-law is out telling everybody I'm a copier and I try to be her, and I got pregnant on purpose to upstage her. So, Reddit. Am I the antagonist? WTAF. You got pregnant just to copy her. She must be really full of herself if she thinks that someone would get pregnant just to be like them. Also, why would you want to be like her? She basically baby-trapped Bill. ETA, not the a-hole. NTA. Remind her that your husband got you pregnant on purpose. Kidding. Don't say that. NTA. I absolutely hate when people get upset about someone else stealing their thunder in situations like this. You are pregnant. You're allowed to be pregnant. You're allowed to tell people that you are pregnant. I would have been excited if someone close to me was pregnant at the same time I was. I would have loved to have a friend or family member to talk to about our pregnancies and commiserate with about the aches and pains and whatnot. You guys are going to have children who will be cousins who will be close in age. I have a cousin who was born the same year I was and we were best friends growing up. Your sister-in-law sounds bitter and insecure. You are pregnant who get pregnant to copy someone. Your sister-in-law is childish and jealous. She should be happy that the babies are going to be close and able to grow up together instead of worrying that you are stealing her thunder. You cannot possibly be TA. Are you supposed to hide the pregnancy until the baby pops out? Am I the antagonist for having the same bag as my sister when she's lost hers? Me, F19, and my older sister, F21, don't talk. Mainly because I think she's a nasty person, so I simply don't want to be involved, but also because she's been attending uni for 3 years and has only just permanently moved back home. I bought a bag in January. A very popular one, not the designer one everyone is raving about online, but like a cargo utility type bag. When she got back from uni, I saw the same bag on her person. I was like, oh, I have that, and she didn't pay much attention. We didn't speak much more for a couple of weeks until she calls me up at work and asks if I've seen her bag. She's lost it and can't find it. I hadn't, and I told her that, but she asked me the same thing every day because her debit card and ID were apparently in it. Fair enough to be stressed, but freeze the card and go everywhere you've been and check lost property. I'd be pissed too, but I'm barely home because I stay at my boyfriend's and always work. I even let go the fact she had our mother go through my bedroom to try and find it because I get the frustration of losing something valuable. I go into my favorite restaurant today and it turns out she works here. No problem, I start up general chat about how she is. Is she looking forward to her festival in a couple of weeks? She then asks to go through my bag to see if it's hers. I allow it, I just can't be bothered to beef her when she's working. She then exclaims it's hers, and now I know, due to our parents' favoritism, I can't go home for a couple of weeks. Brilliant. But I know this is mine, I have pictures with it and the order reference from months ago. She's glaring and stropping and storming around, and I'm just trying to eat my food and get out of here because maybe she's having a bad day. I don't know, but I know working in service is awful sometimes, as I do as well. I don't like her, but I'm not gonna make shit harder for her. So am I the antagonist for having the same bag? Edit, checked. Turns out I bought it in March. Got delivered on 11th. NTA. Don't get me wrong, your sister is a total asshole, but your parents are senior assholes. It seems that their favoritism has caused your sister's toxic behavior. You seriously can't go home for a few weeks because of this? This is hilarious. Please know you absolutely didn't do anything wrong. Like at all. Print out the order information, pictures with the bag, and ask your boyfriend and friends to vouch for you. Edit, forgot my judgment. NTA. NTA for having the same bag. NTA for anything really, but seriously put your foot down and tell her and your parents off if they start shit about this bag. You have proof the bag is yours. If your parents/sister take it, you can report it stolen and let your sister prove she bought it too. I bet she can't. She lost hers with her ID and debit card inside? If she got replacements, further proof she lost her bag and is trying to steal yours to replace the one she lost. Failing that, I can see her destroying your bag. Be careful to keep it out of her reach. Am I the antagonist for not caving to my cat lady roommate's pricey demands? I, 29 female, moved into a new apartment a few months ago where my now roommate, 34 female, had been renting for about 3 months longer. I was upfront about having a cat since I knew she had two as well, but after I signed the lease with our landlord, she suddenly started texting us both with concerns about our animals mixing. It was strange, but also a bit too late to do anything about it. We've had our fair share of the typical roommate disagreements, but nothing gets her more upset than what she perceives as injustices to her cats. It started with accusing my guy of starting fights, but after taking a few videos of her cats cornering mine and instigating the fights themselves, she said it was my fault for having him move into their home. After about 3 weeks of agreeing to keep our animals in our bedrooms on a rotating basis while we're both at work, her cats would get to roam MWF, while mine could roam TTH. She decided this was not fair to her babies and that I should keep my cat in my room anytime I'm not home. I pushed back on this, and she reluctantly caved, but makes a point to bring it up every so often. Her latest gripe is that she doesn't like the food I feed my cat, especially because her cats sneak in and eat it instead of the all-natural stuff she feeds them. I told her that his vet has no issue with what I feed him and that I simply don't have enough money to feed him the way she feeds her cats. For reference, I have seen this woman live off ramen for a week so she could feed her cats fresh venison. Initially, she offered a compromise. If I were to buy higher quality food, she would split the price difference. I agreed, and the next time his food was low, I purchased one of the foods on the list she provided. When it came time to settle our monthly bills, etc., I mentioned the expense and she claimed she never agreed to split the cost and that if I loved my cat I would be willing to pay for it. I told her absolutely not, and that I would be going back to the old food when this bag ran out. Naturally, this pissed her off and she suggested that if I insist on buying him McDonald's for cats, the least I could do was purchase a collar sensor bowl for him. Essentially, it's a covered bowl that opens when a tag that could be put on a cat collar is near enough to the sensor. I told her that I have no problem having my cat wear the collar, but I don't feel like it is my responsibility to pay for it. I have no problem with her cats grazing his food, she does, so she should be the one to pay for it. She insists that because my cat would be the one using it, I should have to pay for it. Am I the antagonist for not spending my money on this thing? And for what it's worth, I have zero intention of renewing my lease next spring. Edit. One thing I probably should have mentioned is that my roommate wrote the online advertisement and it mentioned that no dogs were allowed, but cats were welcome. NTA. You offered completely acceptable and good compromises. It's on her to accept or decline. I would refuse to engage further and, as you said, not renew next year. Good luck. NTA. So sorry you're going through this. Have you tried following Jackson Galaxy's videos for integrating the cats? While I don't have much advice on the food situation, maybe you and your roommate can work together to get the cats to get along. Then at least you won't have to lock them in your rooms. Just as an aside, a lot of those expensive better foods aren't tested and formulated correctly and can lead to heart problems and early death. I love cats, absolutely adore them, and she is way overboard. If she is worried about her cats, she needs to buy the bowl. Hopefully time will go quickly and you and your baby can get away from all of that. By the way, just because a cat food is expensive does not mean it is quality. If your vet approves it, it is fine. Am I the antagonist for pointing out the role my sister played in her toxic relationship? My sister, Eleanor 26 female, dated her ex-boyfriend, Scott 30 male, for a little over a year in 2017. My parents and I, 27 male, got to watch their relationship play out from the sidelines, and it definitely wasn't the healthiest. Scott was struggling hard with alcohol addiction and would raise his voice when he got drunk. Eleanor seemed more interested in provoking these situations than providing actual compassion and care. It was toxic all the way around, and they both played parts in it. During their relationship, Scott and I talked often. I would reach out to him whenever Eleanor would come stay at our parents' house after a fight. Sometimes the text conversations and phone calls weren't even fully coherent, but he would thank me sometime later if he remembered our interaction. I think I might have been one of the only people he had in his corner. I was in Eleanor's corner too, but witnessing her not limiting her alcohol consumption around Scott despite knowing his struggles was really leaving a bad taste in my mouth. Following their breakup and a downward spiral from Scott, I was eventually able to reconnect with him. I encouraged him to get help and I stood by him throughout his sobriety journey. As of right now, he's going on 2 years alcohol-free. He's my closest friend and my confidant. We're life partners and I feel lucky that I get to be a part of support system. And a support system is exactly what he needs, but he has not been welcomed at any family events of mine since the breakup despite his sobriety. I have taken him to some, but my parents and my sister have made it abundantly clear that they will not speak to him or do more than just tolerate his presence. This all came to a head this past weekend. I told my family I wanted to talk to them at the family brunch my parents host occasionally. Once there, I tried to initiate a conversation about forgiveness, but Eleanor basically wouldn't allow it. She would interrupt me by saying things Scott had previously said to her. I tried to ignore her and have a productive talk with my parents, but eventually I snapped and told her that if she had supported Scott in the way he had needed and not selfishly continued to drink in front of him despite the very obvious alcoholism struggles, then maybe things would have been different. I left, but have received texts from my parents and her about how out of line it was and how bad of a brother I am. TLDR, I tried to facilitate forgiveness between my sister's ex and my family only to get shot down. Their reluctance to hear me out made me lash out and point out the role my sister played in their toxic relationship. Am I the antagonist? ETA, I am not saying Scott's addiction was my sister's fault or putting any blame on her. I'm also not excusing his actions. I'm simply saying that both sides of this relationship were toxic and I wish forgiveness was an option. YTA. Who on earth asked you? It's not your place to facilitate forgiveness between your sister and her ex by criticizing her. It sounds as if you are prone to rescuing. I'd keep an eye on that if I were you. Proving support is one thing. Having a savior complex can be very draining. If you want them to accept him as your bestie and/or boyfriend, your wording isn't clear, you can certainly ask them to, but they might not want him in their lives anymore. YTA, so you chose your sister's ex-BF over your sister, even though he was verbally abusive to her because your sister also drank alcohol? Do you have a man crush on this guy? As a parent, if one of my kids was verbally abused by her BF, I most likely would have been arrested for taking matters into my own hands. YTA. Eleanor was not responsible for your boyfriend's problems. She was not responsible for identifying that he had problems. She was not responsible for fixing them. And she certainly was not obligated to change her own actions based on his problems. Your boyfriend does not get to have the world revolve around him. He is responsible for himself and his own actions. He is responsible for hurting your sister while struggling with his problems. The fact that he had problems does not excuse the pain he caused. You are an enabler. You need therapy. OP, you are not an asshole for helping someone get sober, but you very much are an asshole for inserting yourself into the relationship to this deep degree. You want to have a friendship with him? Fine, go for it. But you have absolutely zero right to dictate how your sister and family choose to act with him, including not wanting him around family functions. Am I the antagonist for showing up skinny to my best friend's birthday party? For context, I, 16 female, have a best friend, Sarah, 16 female. We have known each other for 14 years now and pretty much grew up together. We always went to the same school and went into the same exact classes. Sarah was always popular. She was always every boy's crush. Every boy would tell her how beautiful her body was. We both thought that was really fucked up. Anyways, they were right though. She had the perfect amount of curves, but is still overall skinny. I, on the other hand, was never really popular. In fact, I got bullied so much that I had to change schools last year. I was bullied for being the fat friend. Sarah knew that but still went on to say stuff like, "I am so fat nobody wants me," pleading face next to me. She even said that she was anorexic and flexed with it. Back then I believed her. I really thought that she had anorexia since she made it to her personality. So after I changed school, I lost around 35 kilograms. For comparison, I used to be 5'8/176 cm and 198 pounds per 90 kilograms, and now I am around 121/55 kg. Sarah, on the other hand, is also 5'8/176 cm and 143/65 kg. I am not proud about the way that I lost the weight, but it is what it is. It took me a few months to lose that much weight. In that few months I didn't see Sarah. We only texted or FaceTimed. So the day comes, and it's her birthday. She invited me the day before the big party to celebrate with her close family only. Her mother opens the door for me, and her jaw dropped. She had never seen me that skinny or skinnier than her own daughter ever, as I was always way heavier than Sarah. She started to give me compliments and couldn't stop talking about how good I looked. "Now that you're skinny." Her dad also joined the conversation, and Sarah didn't like that. I got to admit that I also felt uncomfortable with this situation and tried to change the conversation many times. Sarah was pissed the whole day, and after I went home I received a text message from her saying that I was selfish and an asshole for stealing her big day, and how I don't feel bad about her having anorexia. I don't think that that's true. I didn't mention my weight loose and even tried to change the conversation. I think she's just jealous that I am the one that's getting compliments and all the attention now. So what do you guys think? Sorry for the bad English, it's not my first language. Edit. I got the height and weight wrong, just updated it. NTA. Sounds like she relished having a fat friend to make herself feel/look good. Funny how she didn't mind you not receiving attention, but now the roles are reversed. It's all your fault and not the fault of the people making a big deal out of it. It also sounds like her parents were probably very critical of her weight growing up, which also really sucks. NTA. All you did was show up while having a body. It sucks that her parents were so weird about it. Wow, you're not the a-hole, but your friend's not one either. Her parents gushed over how much better you look now that you're skinny. I can only imagine what sort of body image issues they induced in their daughter over the years. That poor girl, that anger was misdirected at you. You both sound like you have body image issues and a disordered relationship to eating and food. Please get therapy and take the time to learn about nutrition so that if you want to lose weight you can make sure and do it in a healthy way rather than developing an eating disorder. You may also want to ask yourself whether this friendship is healthy for you. Am I the antagonist for telling my friend that her second language doesn't count because her parents taught her? I'm a 24 female. We live in the UK, but my friend Kara's 25 female dad is from Spain. She learned both English and Spanish growing up, so is bilingual. I am interested in learning French, but really struggle with learning languages. I studied German in school for a few years, but have forgot most of it, and have been studying French for the past couple of years, and am at an intermediate level. Cara really often makes comments about how it's so embarrassing that many people from the UK can only speak one language. She said the other day that it's not that hard to learn another language, but people are just lazy. I snapped and told her that her knowing Spanish isn't the same as someone learning a language in adulthood from scratch when no one around them speaks it. She told me that I'm obviously just jealous and isn't speaking to me. I am a bit jealous, but think I'm right. My parents both only speak English, but if they were fluent in another language, I'd obviously know it. Am I the antagonist? NTA. She's fortunate her parents were able to immerse her in their language from an early age. Not everyone is so lucky, and classes at school do not have the same kind of atmosphere as having it constantly spoken to and around you alongside another language. She needs to stop being pretentious about the opportunities she's had and understand that not everyone is as fortunate. I was fully ready to YTA you based on the title, but after seeing what you actually said in the conversation, not the a-hole. You're right, it is much harder to learn a language once the sheer neuroplasticity of childhood has diminished. It's still not true, fair, or kind to say that her second language doesn't count for that reason, but that's not what you said, despite the title. You merely said it's not the same for learning. NTA, and I was totally going to call you one. But learning a language as an adult is exponentially harder than learning as a child, especially when they're immersed in the language at home. She's an asshole for casually putting down the majority of people she lives with. You're an asshole for lashing out from jealousy and putting down her. Very real. Expanded language skill set. Yes, it's easier for children to learn languages than adults. Yes, it's easier to learn a language when your family speaks it. No, that doesn't mean it doesn't count.